I'm Heather from booktubes, and today is a romance recommendation video where the trope is a spoiler. All these books are wildly different tropes, so if you read one, it's not like you know the spoiler for the other recommendations at all whatsoever. They might have some overlap, but I think mostly they completely do not. And I got this idea from a few different things. One, Kristy from Bookend to Bookend on Instagram recommended me the first book, and when I got to the twist, I was like, wow, love this. And then I recommended it to Rachel. Rachel Reads and Sings, because it's a trope that she likes. So I was like, hey, I can't tell you the trope. The trope is a spoiler, but this is something that you like. I think that you would like it. And then Bree from 11 Words was talking on a live or recommendation video or something, and she was saying how one of the things that she really likes is like the switch out love interest, where you fall for person A, we're having a relationship with them, and then there's a switcheroo and actually she ends up with person B and that's our love interest. And she said you really can't recommend that or search recommendations for it because it gives the whole thing away and then it's not really as good. And so all those things combined, when I was like, okay, Tracy recommended this to me, I recommended it to Rachel, I know exactly what Bree is talking about, this makes sense. So I asked Bree if she wanted to do a collab, and she was like, I don't think I have enough books to make a recommendation. So it's fine, but I did very much get the idea from those kind of three interconnected scenarios all at once. So the first book, the one that Tracy recommended to me and I recommended to Rachel, is Held in Contempt by Sherie. This is a erotic romance. It's a Black romance, and it takes place in a courtroom setting, and I can't really tell you much about it. It's short, it's erotic. When the twist happened, I was very surprised and my enjoyment of it immediately went up. So when the conflict happened, I was like, oh, heck no, hate this. And then there was a reveal and I was like, you got me, I'm sold, hook, line, and sinker. I will say that there is a big content warning. The conflict, the bad guy, is a racist and he does use racial slurs on page. He does get his comeuppance, but that definitely is kind of the conflict of the book. Next, I have Evil Twin by Wilde. This is a fantasy romance novella, and you have the evil twin. His parents asked him not to kill his no good for nothing brother, and so because of that, he believes he's the evil twin. His brother is a king who is worthless. We don't care about him. He does no good. And our main character is the general, and he wants to rule his kingdom. He doesn't want to work for his brother his whole life, but he promised his parents before they died that he wouldn't kill him, so he's kind of stuck. So when a princess from a rival nation comes to be his brother's bride, he has an idea. He's an identical twin. He will seduce the princess, take her virginity, the royal family will walk in on them, she will have to marry him, and he will get to rule her country instead. His plan works, and then he has to deal with the repercussions of it. There were so many different things in this book that I absolutely loved that I can't tell you about. So many good reveals, so many interesting thoughts on human nature and how we perceive ourselves and others, and the steam and the humor and the relationship, all of it was complete and total perfection with morally great characters that I loved. Next I have Headmaster by Tiffany Reisz, and this is a school teacher who is looking for a job, and she's on a road trip and she stops at this private school and she has a relationship with the headmaster. There's a mysterious lady in white walking the grounds and she's trying to figure things out. It's an all-boys school, and the headmaster is so prim and proper and distinguished and kind. I thought that this was going to be a dark romance, and it's not. The ending did make me cry multiple times because I read it twice and I've cried twice, but the romance itself is incredibly sweet and polite, and they're so charming to each other. Like, they're so attracted to each other's minds and wit, and it's just delightful. Next, I have the Queen's Thief series by Megan Whalen Turner. I have dropped a few hints about this series. It is a young adult series about a thief who claims that he can steal anything, but he's in prison. And so they take him out of prison to steal a item for political gain. And you're following them on their road trip to try and steal this unstealable thing. This series has a cult following. A cult following, and we can't tell you why. Everything about this series is perfection. There is a romance in Lather books, actually a few different romances in Lather books. Every single book has big reveals at the end where you see everything from a different angle. I can't tell you all of the absolutely excellent tropes that are in this series, but when I tell you it is one of my all-time favorite, hands down, best reading experiences I have ever had. Please read it. Please read it. If you read through book 3 and you are not like, this is an all-time favorite, then please do not talk to me. Books 2 and 3 are definitely my favorites in the series, although I absolutely enjoy every single one. The beginning of the series in the first book, a little bit of a slow start, but not so much that you are going to be bored out of your mind. It's just you don't really see much happening. But the writing is impeccable. Everything about this series is impeccable. There's so much goodness. There's so much goodness. And yeah, we don't tell anybody that doesn't know. But it's so good. Next I have Sinful Val, which is Mafia Misfits, a #1 by Monique. This had a couple of different reveals that really did surprise me. This is about Black members of the Mafia pretty much splitting off and doing their own Mafia. So this book specifically is 2 different Black Italian families who have their own separate organizations, and they're going to do a marriage of convenience to merge the 2 empires together. One just separated from the Italian Mafia, and one has been separated for many, many years. And there is, in the prologue, you see this entire kind of committee of different heads of the crime organizations who are all Black or biracial, and it's so good. It's so good. I loved this, very fast paced. I really, really liked the characters and their relationship. Some of the plot stuff I was a little unsure of, but I'm really looking forward to continuing the series. The second book should be out really soon. It's supposed to be out in June, and I really enjoyed it. I think that you are better off not knowing anything besides the marriage of convenience. And yeah, really enjoyable, especially if you want diverse Mafia. Then I have 4 Psychos, which is The Dark Side #1 by Kristy Cunning. This is a MMMF romance that is paranormal, and you have this girl who can't be seen, can't be touched. She's not a ghost, but she doesn't know what's going on, and she seems to come into being more around these 4 guys maybe, I don't remember. But each book expands on the plot a lot, and you get a completely different story than you thought you were getting at the beginning, because each one just, expands. And I really loved it. They're not super nice to her at the beginning, but eventually they are going to dote on her, and I kind of loved it. I felt like they were very misunderstanding of her. There's a lot of humor. This is really a very funny book, so I wouldn't think it's super dark based on the cover. I loved it, like loved it, and I can't really tell you what it's about. Next I have Beautifully Cruel, which is Beautifully Cruel #1 by J.T. Geissinger. I read this so many years ago, and the reveal I loved. But you have the head of a mafia, and you have a diner waitress, and this head of the mafia keeps coming in. He never drinks his coffee. He just sits in her section, watches her, leaves. Things escalate though. He's been trying to keep away from her to keep her from danger while still being obsessed with her, but things happen, so he decides to kidnap her to keep her safe. And this has a hero with a Irish accent, Scottish accent, something like that, and some really good dirty talk, some really good steamy scenes, and some really good twists. And I really enjoyed the second book that kind of goes off of the twist, and I just really, really liked it. Can't tell you the things that I liked the most. Can't tell you, but it's good stuff. Then I have The Duke Who Didn't, which is Wedgeford Trials #1 by Courtney Milan. This has a very specific trope that's very popular that I don't want to tell you because I really enjoyed the reveal of it. And you have friends to lovers, childhood friends to lovers. She's very type A, very perfectionist, and she told him to go away and come back when he knew what he wanted. He really wants to marry her, but he's a duke, he's half Chinese, she is a Chinese immigrant, and he has to deal with so much racism and so much prejudice in the nobility. He doesn't really want to drag her into that, right? But he also just doesn't want to not have her. And so he knows that she's not going to believe him if he says that he just wants to marry her. So he is making her help him find the perfect candidate to be a wife. And of course she makes a list, and there's all sorts of different things. There's this really funny morning after scene that I was just dying of laughter at. I loved the writing in this. It really made me want to read more Courtney Milan. I loved the writing. I loved the relationship. It takes place over the course of about a week, and there's a couple different reveals, but one specifically that I think you will enjoy more if you don't know what it is. Lastly, I Think I Might Need You, which is Love Sisters #2 by Christina C. Jones. This is a rom-com series. It is truly hilarious. It's about 3 different sisters, and this one is about a YouTuber, and her love interest is also a YouTuber, and she does a live stream and things go comically wrong, and I was just entranced. I was just watching the train wreck happen, and there was definitely some communication issues, but not in a way that annoyed me or anything like that. This is just really good rom-com novella, and it is a polarizing trope, but I don't want to tell you what it is. Just know it's good. It's good stuff. It's a good execution of the trope, so you should read it. That's it. Those are all my recommendations that I have today, where the trope is a spoiler or a thing that I really enjoyed in the book. I think you will also enjoy if you don't know that's coming the same way that I didn't know it was coming. So those are my recommendations. If you've read any of these or want to read any of these, let me know. If you have a recommendation where you're like, it's so good, but I can't tell you why it's so good, let me know in the comments. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.